Hello everyone. Welcome back to Thursday Live. I'm Steve Leahy. How is everyone doing? Hopefully really well. We're picking up right where we left off on Monday. Oh, turn that down. There we go. No echo. There we go. So I got a little bit of show and tell. We're going to be working on that Sunoco painting. That's the last kind of thing I have to get done for this week. Other than the 543s. Last week I had all the 543s done by Thursday. This week I have none of them done. So tomorrow will be a busy day around here for that. But I wanted to get a couple other things off the plate and I'll show you those. So now that those are done, we are pretty much ready to go. So let me switch the cameras around and we'll get right to it. Paul, what's up? Franz, what's happening? All right. So I know you get this weird gray. I just put the gray here because the painting's behind it and it's less confusing that way. The first thing I want to show you is Monday's painting. So on the live feed, we did a little bit of a chrome demo, so I finished that. And this is how the Packard painting came out, which was fun. It was really a quick one. It only took me about, this is about four hours worth of work, including the live feed. So it was pretty quick. No, I'll take that back. Probably about 6 hours altogether. It's on UPO, so it's on that, polypropylene paper. It's got UVLS satin on it, which is nice. It's all cleared and everything, and it's ready to go. So this one is on my site right now, and I just decided to blow it out because it was kind of a Facebook Live painting, and so that one's on there. So I think I call this one Reflections. It's right on the front page of my website if you want to check that out. Enzo, what's up, buddy? Adrian, what's happening? Yes, good evening, Adrian, to all my UK friends. So that's how that one came out. It was a lot of fun. We did the mostly the bumper. We did that on Monday, and then I did the hubcap and the rest of the headlight bezel on my own. So that's how that one came out. And that one comes unframed, by the way. So just if you're interested in that one, yeah, you just get that the way it is. It comes in a what am I trying to say? It comes in a foam board kind of folder-ish thing. But yeah, you get to frame that yourself. The good news is that's 5x7, so it's really easy to frame. You can get pretty much anything for it. And then the other thing that I posted today was the Corvette painting, and I'll get you guys closer to this one too. That's how that came out. I kind of cheated a little bit. What's going to happen with this one is it's going to be framed like the Impala painting. And if you go on my site for that one, you'll see it actually in the frame, which is this frame here. So what I did was I just basically did this for the photograph. So you get the idea. I have these frames, they're on order. They come custom. So I'm waiting for it right now. It should be in next week, but I figured I'd still put the painting up. But those two will be fun together. Let me get you a little closer to this one. I'll show you how this one came out. We did a little bit on this. I can't remember if we did this on the live feed here or not, but it was a lot of fun. I time-lapsed pretty much the whole front end of this car on the YouTube channel, so that popped up yesterday. And the only thing I was going to time-lapse the wheels too and the tires, but at that point I just really wanted to get them done. Dan, what's up, buddy? Hey, Brad, what's going on? So that's how it came out. I was really, really happy with it. Like I said, it's going to be dropped into the frame as soon as that comes in. I have to pinstripe the frame, but it'll be dropped in after that. So that is how my C3 Corvette came out. What else do I got? That's it. I'd show you 543s, but I don't have any to show you because I haven't done them yet. So what we're going to be working on today is Tony. So let me zip out to this camera real quick to show you. So this is that Sunoco painting that I did. And what had happened was with this one, I know, Dan, I'm sorry. I started with the time lapse and that front end, what you see in the time lapse for about 10 minutes on the YouTube thing is about an hour and 20 minutes worth of work. I'll turn this on too, so you can see that. So it's about an hour and 20 minutes worth of work, what you see in that time lapse. And then after that, it was yesterday afternoon, the day before, maybe the day before, I don't know, whenever it was. I'm like, man, I just got to get this done. And normally with the time lapse, it's not a big deal because I can just like put the camera on and just let it run. but it does change the way that I work. It slows me down because I can't get at all the angles because the camera's in the way. So it does slow me down, and at that point I just really wanted to get it done. So I will do a tire demo at some point, and that might be good for that. So this is Tony's painting, the Sunoco. I finished this a while ago, and Tony got it back, and after looking at it for a little while, asked me if I would change. This is actually little Tony here. This is the gas station that he worked at as a kid. They pulled it down sometime in the 70s, I think. Or no, it became something else, like a car dealership or something for a while, and then they pulled it down. Now it's gone. So he wanted a painting of the original gas station. So we had a bunch of pictures. We put them all together, and this guy over here, which you can barely see in the overhead cam, that's the owner, Pete. So we had a picture of him, and I dropped him in there, and then we had Tony in the doorway. I used a picture of Tony from like a graduation, like a high school graduation type of thing. So you're looking at him straight on, he's suit on and everything. And so I adapted that photo, but it was a frontal face on photograph of him. He was in, the back row of a bunch of other people. It was well lit from the front, so you really couldn't make out his features. And in the end of it, because it was so tiny, I mean, I think it's like 1/4 of an inch for the top of his head, or for his head. It just didn't look like him. Even though, it was as good as it was going to get, there just wasn't enough value there to make it look like him. So we talked about it, and we ended up coming up with another idea, which I'll show you. And that's where we are today. So I did work on this. I think I got to write them down, because I can't remember if I worked on the portrait here or if I worked on it on Facebook, but it's live somewhere. You can kind of catch that. And I sent it to him, what I've got done, and he liked it, so we're going forward. So today we're just going to kind of pick at this and see how far we can get. I'd love to get this done by the end of this week. So let me switch you to this camera, because you get a closer view of it, and that's where we ended up. Bobby Silva, what's up, buddy? Oh, thanks. It's so funny with thanks with these gas cans. The only thing I could think of, or I kept thinking of, was The Jerk and Steve Martin standing in front of the gas cans. Someone hates these gas cans. Anyway, well, thank you. Yeah, I had a good time with it. That was a lot of fun. I'm doing a lot of research, like all the gas cans in the window too. I went back and I looked to see what the gas, I'll turn this back on, what gas cans, oil cans, I mean, were available, and what they looked like in the early 70s and late 60s. And it was a lot of fun. So there's transmission fluid there, Quaker State oil, and then the Sunoco branded oil as well. But it was a lot of fun, yeah, because I kept going back and forth with Tony on this, because most of it is made up. The original photo is only about this area that you're looking at right now. I had to kind of make everything else up, so that was fun. All right, so I've got Tony here. Move this here. You're gonna get the camera, the light in the way there, but it's the best we're gonna do. Today's cheers is coffee. So if you're from the UK, or even if you're from the US and you're hanging out and you're having beverages, cheers to you. Yeah, same thing with the gas pumps. I went online and looked up period gas pumps, and we ended up, so there's a lot about this that's different than what I had for a photograph. I just had a black and white photograph of, like I said, of that middle section. I had to kind of like make everything else up, which was fun. All right. So what I've got, he's pretty much locked in right now here. So, so I think I'm going to airbrush a little bit and just kind of even out the tone. I didn't turn off my phone. That's a bad. Oh, come on now. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds. Serious live faux pas. Leaving your phone on during all this. There we go. Do not disturb. Do not disturb. All right, we're good. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I've got, again, if I'm repeating myself, let me know, because I often do. I can't remember if I did the face here on Facebook, or if I did this on if I did on Facebook or I did on YouTube. I can't really remember. But I'll go while I have to, I left paint in this brush. See all the red in that brush? I left paint in there. So I have to let that soak for a second. This is just rubbing alcohol in case you were wondering how I do this. It's a little bit of rubbing alcohol in the bottom of this cup, and I'll just stand this up so the bristles stay in the cup. Do that off to the side here for a second. And oops, maybe over this side. Yeah, that's better. Oh, that's much better. Okay. So all I did to get Tony in there, well, not all I did, it was fun, is I took, a photocopy like this, and I just kind of put it directly over where he is, and I just kept flipping it back and forth. And I just kept putting each individual little speck of paint in until it looked like him. And we finally got that. So that's how I kind of got his face done. And that's how I do most of those little tiny portraits. Because you have so little information there, you have to make sure everything is exactly right, or else it doesn't look like him. I mean, it looks like him in this photocopy, so I know I can get it. It's just a matter of making sure I have the right little pixels here and there. Oh, Bobby Silva. I didn't even mention that. Thank you, Bobby. Bobby's our very, very, very first member. Congratulations, Bobby. That's the other thing I didn't mention. So I finally activated the membership on the YouTube channel. So what it does is it gives you some cool emojis, razor blades and paintbrushes and Createx paint. It puts a little, the bucket list painting razor blade next to your name. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow you early access to Open Studio as soon as I can figure out how to do that. But mainly it's there for support for what we do here. So thank you so much. That's awesome. I didn't even know what to do with that. That's cool, Bobby. Thank you. What could go wrong? I will come up with different, more additional perks. What I don't think I'm going to do with the membership is have like a million different tiers. I don't want to. It's going to be like everyone joins and has a good time, and there's one price, and it's the lowest price, and that's it. That's what it's going to be. And I'll find other perks for it too. What it does do, it also encourages me to get more members as well, because the more members that we have, the more perks I can add. They do it by like tiers on the inside too, which is interesting. Like I have all the emojis I can have right now, but as I get more members, I can add more emojis, which are fun, because I'll think of some pretty stupid ones. Anyway, let's get to it. So the paintbrush is kind of doing its thing. It's just soaking right now. So as soon as that's done soaking, I will be able to use that. So the alcohol just breaks up the paint, and it breaks it up safely. It isn't too harsh on it, so so it works well for that. I even left. Oh man, telling you, we are definitely picking up where we left off on Monday. I left paint in this brush all night. That's not good. So what happens if you're, not an airbrusher and you leave wet paint in your airbrush? It's like leaving paint in your paintbrush, like I did on the paintbrush. It just dries in there and gets real difficult to get out. Fortunately, this brush, I used it last night before I actually had a pretty late night trying to finish everything up. So the paint in the airbrush was still liquid, and that's really good. Then I just have to clean it out. However, if it had dried in there, we would have been using a different brush. Ah, that's awesome. Bobby's got his name in cool colors too. I am so clueless on the membership thing, and I wasn't even sure that I was going to do it, but then I started thinking about it, and a lot of other creators that I follow have the membership, and they do a lot of fun stuff with it. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, yeah, we can have some fun with that. All right. So what I've got is if you look at him now, see how his like chin just kind of, it looks like he's like, doing one of these, and I don't want that. So what I have to do is I have to kind of shade basically the side of his face to kind of round that over and get rid of that kind of, what's happening is because I only use a paintbrush and I only paint the paint in the areas of like the darkest areas, it pushed all those other areas out farther, and that's why it looks goofy. So we're going to fix that right now. And we will do that with the airbrush. I think I'm going to use burnt umber for that. The other membership component that's going on too that I mentioned last week is the Patreon. So that's new. That actually it's a little bit more expensive per month. But it also offers you a little bit more too. So I wanted them different. I kind of wanted them to be a little bit different. And I think for the initial part, I think they're fleshed out pretty well. There are going to be changes. I think as I kind of figure out the best way to give people the most bang for their buck. So, but it was a good start, and I tend, shocker, I tend to overthink a lot of things, and those two things I overthought those a lot. They were on the the things to do list right from the beginning of the year with all the other things. And I just wanted to make sure that, I was doing them the right way. So thank you, Bobby. You are the charter member. Congratulations. London Penn is also the charter member of Patreon. He was, London Penn was the first to do that, which was great. So, all right. James, what's up? I missed you jumping on, James. That's awesome. And the other thing we talked about on YouTube, and on Facebook, and I have kind of the same question to ask you guys here. This is mostly for the UKers, but it also applies to people on my time zone and over. This feed, I can move this feed a little bit later if it's more convenient for my European friends for GMT area. Right now you guys are seeing me at 6 o'clock. If you want it a little bit later, I also don't mind doing that. I'm talking about moving the Facebook feed a little bit later so that the West Coast of the US can kind of get a shot at it. So that, I figured since I'm moving or possibly moving the Facebook feed a little bit later, I would also bounce that off my GMT friends. See what you guys think of that, because 6 o'clock is a nice time, but sometimes it's a little bit too early. People are just getting home from work. They're trying to have dinner, maybe 7 o'clock, an hour later, or 8 o'clock, might work out well for the GMTers. For I think for East Coast, it's in the afternoon anyway. It's either 1 or 3 or whatever. So, but let me know your thoughts on that too. All right. So this is just straight up burnt umber right now. I have to try to look in the cameras. I can't see what I'm doing. What I'm going to do. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure it's going to work first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start on his neck and just kind of get a feel for how the paint is coming out. Make sure it's coming out nice and slow. And also to make sure this is the right color. So this feels very orange as it's coming out, and I don't want that. So I'm going to add a little bit of black to it. And again, there it is again and again. So lumber shows its wicked head. A little bit of black to that umber, I think. That'll kind of help dull it out a little bit. It won't be as orange. Because again, I'm just looking for a little bit of... Michael, what's up, buddy? Just looking for a little bit of shading on this. And once I get a little bit of paint flying, I will show you how I kind of came up with this this image of Tony. This is serious hold your breath time for me, because so much can go wrong if like this has like a little blowout or whatever. I still feel like I'm missing his chin. So this is a good time to show you what I'm dealing with, which is not easy by any stretch. The only picture Tony had, the one he wanted to use, was literally a still from like an 8mm video of him, and this is that photo. So it's grainy, it's not very clear, the lighting is not great, but there's just barely enough information there to kind of get what I need. So the problem I'm having, obviously, is his chin. And if you notice down the bottom of this still, you can't see his chin. The value is the same for his chin and his neck. So I'm going to have to make it up to get it to look right. And this is definitely the what could go wrong portion of the show. Because anytime, especially on a portrait, when you start making stuff up, it can change things drastically. So while you guys are there, I'll show you the result of my brush cleaning adventures here. So there's pyrrole red in there. What happens is as you soak it, the paint just kind of breaks off the brush. Now you also notice this is a good endorsement for the reducer too. So you see how the rubbing alcohol, this is isopropyl alcohol, see how it breaks the paint off the brush, but in these little fragments? So for the people who say, yeah, I use rubbing alcohol to thin my paints, that's what's going to happen to your paint when you use rubbing alcohol to thin it. It thins it, but it also breaks the pigment off the binder. So you get all this clogging and chunking and spitting and all this other fun stuff. It's the reason why, and this is across the board too, whenever I use a new paint, I'll always grab the reducer that goes with that paint, whether it's made by them or whatever they recommend, basically. Because you don't want this kind of thing happening. It just makes it a mess. That's why, you know, when all these people were putting things like window cleaner and things like that and making reducer out of that, it just never seemed right to me, because those cleaning agents were what was breaking the paint down. So all right, so we're looking good right now with this brush. Finally, rubbing alcohol does such a good job. It's definitely almost new brush day. This one's not doing well, but it'll get us through. All right, so what I'm going to do, you guys back in on that, right? Yeah. Actually, can I get you even closer? I heard. Give me 2 seconds here. I actually intended this video to be, you know, just kind of us working on his shirt and everything. There you go. That's much better. Now you get a much better feel for what I'm dealing with. So see how it just looks like from the bottom lip goes right down into his chest. I gotta get that to stop doing that. And what it's going to end up being is it's going to be a bunch of back and forth now. I'll try something, sit back, it's going to look like ass, and then I got to redo it. And it's just that kind of back and forth till I come up with the right way to do it. Adrian, I will let the other UKers know or comment on the time. I don't work anymore, so I'll go with the flow. Oh, awesome, Adrian. Good. Thank you. I appreciate that. What I should do, actually, I can do it on, you know what, Adrian, too. I'm going to put up a community post after the feed to ask that question. So if you could direct people to that community post, that poll, we could just take a poll and see what people think. I know Wayne, World of Wayne is on Thursday nights. I think he comes on at 8 your time. And I know a lot of people watch him. So I don't, you know, I mean, he's strictly a modeler, but I know he does some airbrushing. But still, I don't want to step on any toes. Not that, you know, my channel is much smaller than his anyway, so it wouldn't matter. But again, it's nice to settle into a good time zone and then not have to worry about it, you know, as things kind of grow, I guess. All right, so what I'm going to do, I leave the palette cam off, unless I can see what this looks like. Hold on. Switch that over for a second, see what you guys see there. It might be too small. Wake up. Wait for it. Do I have it plugged in? I don't even have it plugged in. Dumbass. Dumas. There we go. Come on now. Here we go. Yeah, we'll do that. 2 seconds here. Let me get you guys a little bit bigger on that one. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. All right. So what I do is I mixed up a little bit of a really light flesh tone here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by kind of getting his chin back a little bit, because I think I put too much shading on his chin. So again, what this is going to be is just me picking at this thing until it kind of looks right. So it's kind of a blue shift to it too. So I'm going to add a little bit of pink to it. There we go. So that's white, burnt umber, and a little bit of pyrrole red. So again, all this stuff I'm doing right now, I'm just making it up. I'm kind of looking at the photo, but also just kind of going for it. Like, I think I hit the shading a little bit too much under his lip. And I think I can get away with adding a little bit of chin, even though you can't really see it. Yeah, that's better. So when I mentioned this brush being almost done, what happens to these brushes is right now it's doing fine. You can see it's like a really nice sharp point. But as this brush kind of starts to dry out a little bit, that point will split off into either 2 or more tongues essentially, and it just won't give me that really tight fine point anymore. So that's kind of how I know that it's almost ready. Yeah, I think that's all right. Yeah, I think actually I was worried about all the shading on that, and I think that's what the issue was, that I just didn't have enough of his chin apparent there. So I'm going to lighten this up a little bit and see if I can push that a little bit more, because, all right, so there's a good example. If you look right now, see that little spike that's coming off the side of this brush? When they're new, they don't do this. Now, I could trim that off, but again, I get so long and so much time out of them. I just retire them essentially and use them for other things. So, Steve, are you a fan of the Bengals, Browns, or both? Dan, we are an hour south of Cleveland and an hour west of Pittsburgh. So where we are right here in Northeast Ohio, there's an even distribution of Steelers fans and Browns fans. So the problem for me is I grew up in New England, so that makes me a Patriots fan. And people don't like that around here, especially the Pittsburgh fans. The Browns fans could care less. But yeah, so I still watch all the Patriots games. Steve, for life of me, I cannot figure out why I cannot get you on Facebook Live Monday nights. Michael, I don't know. Dan. I know, I get that a lot. So that's okay, Dan. Marge is she grew up in Wisconsin, so of course she's a Packers fan. So yeah, so that really goes over well. The only thing that keeps the peace around here is that the Packers had their way with the Patriots in the 90s. So yeah, so whenever she brings it up, I still tell her I cry like Brett Favre every time I think of that Super Bowl. She doesn't like that very much. Even though she's not into sports ball, it's like an institution in Green Bay or in Wisconsin than the Packers. Or I just tell her I just tell her I'm a Chicago fan, you know, I like the Bears. That really goes over well too. Yeah, Michael, back to you. Michael, I don't know. Is it that it doesn't show up, like there's no announcement for it, or you literally can't log on to it? Obviously, I'm going to assume you're on the art page. Most Some people know it, some people don't know it. I also have a personal page. I do have a lot of airbrush folks on as friends on that page, only because I've had I've had a Facebook account forever, and when I was originally, before they had all the business pages and stuff like that, I was running all my business stuff through my personal page, and then somewhere along the line they said, no, we're switching everything over to business pages as if you're running a business. And so a lot of airbrush friends were kind of not stranded, but left on the personal page as well. So if you're looking at my personal page, the live feed won't come up there. You could tell it's my personal page because it's my kids on there. So, okay. That makes me happy, because I actually thought that was going to be a complete wrestling match, but it really wasn't. I'm okay with that. So what I'm left with now is this blue shifted chin. So I've got the right shape in there. Everything's good, but it's got this weird color where this is really warm and orange over here. It's kind of bluish over here. So that's an easy fix. What I'm going to end up doing is take a little bit of red oxide, and I've already got it super reduced here. This is called just blue shifter, but I mix this up for airbrushing, but it works for paintbrushing too if you're only doing a little bit of it. It's just a really over-reduced red oxide. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of that on the brush, really dry the brush off, like get just a little bit of that on there. And then what I can do with that color is I can just kind of wash over what I just did. Now, it's really thin, it's really wet, so I just kind of put it on there and leave it alone, let it dry. If I keep messing with it, then I'm going to put all these streaks in it. You just put it on and let it dry. If it needs more, then once it's dry, you do it again and keep going until that blue shift disappears. So that's how that works. Yeah, the other really weird thing too is when I moved here, we weren't really watching cable at all. So we ended up getting rid of cable. We just have, I watch a lot of YouTube, and I have Netflix, and we have Amazon Prime, so there's a bunch of movies on there. So we just weren't using cable. So we're like, well, we'll just get rid of cable. We'll just have internet. And it didn't occur to me that most of the football games are on, paid cable type of things. I mean, now it's a little bit better. Prime has some games on, and YouTube, I think, even has YouTube TV has some games and that kind of thing. But it's not like when, I had Red Zone or whatever, and you could watch everything. So I have to get Red Zone separate through the whatever and that. Because going back, like I was saying, like I can't go to the bar and watch the game anymore. I'd have to go watch like I said, a Bengals game or a Browns game, or God forbid a Steelers game. See, Gary's not on, so I can rank on the Steelers. Oh, Gary is here. Gary's a member now. Gary's a member right after I start making fun of the Steelers. So Gary, I apologize for that. You guys are awesome. All right. So that part of it's done. So now let's move on. This is good. I didn't expect to be able to do this. I thought I would be wrestling with the face the whole time, but I'm actually really happy with that. All right. Gary, I was going through the feed today, and I realized that you had asked a couple times about the summer sale, if it was still going, and it did end. So that I pushed it out an extra week, and I think that ended up ending last weekend, last Friday or Saturday. I can't remember now. All right. So let's move on. I think what I'm going to do, he has a white t-shirt on. The way I did this was I literally got a photograph of it, just like a model, a teen, a boy modeling shirts or jeans or whatever he was modeling. And I literally grafted Tony's head onto him. So that's how I did that. I did that in Photoshop. And then I took that image and I just scaled it up and down until it fit into this, this painting. So that's how I did that. Lewis, what's up, buddy? Oh, nice, Gary. Oh, because my two least favorite teams are the Eagles and the Steelers. But yeah, like I was telling everyone, Gary, here in the Northeast Ohio, there are probably just as many Steelers fans as anything else here. So a lot of Steelers flags flying around here, and I keep telling Marge that I want to, put up my Patriots flag, and she's smart in saying no, because around here people take that not seriously, because some people take it seriously, but they take it aggressively. So I don't want to do that. Three Amigos. Yes, Three Amigos is on the site right now. So, yeah, that's on the site right now. All right, where am I at? So what I did was I just cut up a bunch of these copies like that. What we're going to do is, he has his white t-shirt on, his jeans, and then I'm going to make that shirt blue to kind of make it easy. So what we're going to do is, Jim, I can't see anyone's conversation. I don't know what's going on with that, Jim. Jim, I can see, obviously I can see you. There we go, Lewis, thank you. So what I'm going to do is, I think what we'll do is, I'm going to drop in his shirt and his pants, and then do all the folds and stuff on that. The shirt, he's already white here. I base coated this with white. So the t-shirt's pretty much already done. So I think that's the way I'm going to attack this. I've already got the base color in on his arms. All right. I don't mind painting hands and feet. They're a challenge, but when you can avoid them, it saves you a bunch of time without, having a problem. So when I found this picture of this kid with his hands in his pockets, I'm like, yes, that's perfect. So that's the story behind that. You may not want to admit the Patriots fan thing, just saying, yeah, no kidding, Gary. This is not the area. It would be kind of like I'm not the kind of guy, I know people don't, honest, when it really boils down to it, like you could wear Yankees gear at Fenway Park, just like you could, wear Red Sox stuff in New York. But it's just, I don't know, you're asking for a whole different experience when you do stuff like that. So, I mean, I could care less. I think it's funny when I went to when I did the show in Oshkosh. It was when was it? It was a little while after the Super Bowl, but still, I stayed at someone's house. It was like an Airbnb, but it was at someone's house, and so they knew I was from New England. So when I got there, I got this little basket of all this Packers stuff, which was great. And I thought it was funny. So, but I know some people take it a little bit more serious than that, which is unfortunate because, sports ball. But anyway, yeah, we decided it was a mutual, made a mutual agreement not to put the Patriots flag up. So. All right. So how am I going to do this? I'm just going to cut it out. Or I could just do his shirt. What I'm afraid of is if I cut out all of his shirt, all of his pants, and the side of his shirt, that there won't be enough really holding it together. It'll make a mess. So I think I'm going to cut my losses and just do the shirt. Take my time. This is it's coming out good, and cutting corners now to save an extra like 5 seconds, and then having something go sideways. is not what I want to be doing right now with this. As much as I love Tony, I would love to get this to him done and then, you know, have it be all set. So I have time to finish this because it looks like I'm going to be heading to New England in October. So I have a little bit of time to finish this up. This is one of those things that I would ship if I had to, but I'd rather not. One, because it's not framed. They just tend to ship better when they're framed. But yeah. Ravens flag wouldn't be bad. That's why, like, was it Chief before snatch the Cleveland Browns? Yes. Yeah, see, I'm not a big Ravens fan either, Michael. I love you. And one of my favorite uncles lived in Baltimore. So, yeah. Oh, and Lewis, see, again, the Seahawks. God. So much history there. Timothy John Luke Smith. What's up, buddy? Philly fans are the worst. Yes, I agree with that. My cousin is an Eagles fan, and I love him to pieces. But yeah, I agree with that. Raiders fans are the worst, and I think Craig Frazier will agree with that. Tim, I was asleep by 9 o'clock last night. I didn't even make the opening bell. So I hope your feed went well. I've been outside all day, so I hadn't had a chance to watch your feed, but I will definitely catch up with it. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I've got this. I'll switch the camera a little bit so you can see it, but I've cut out the shirt here. I'm just going to kind of base this in with a light blue to start, and then I'm going to just hand paint a lot of the details in so that, what do I do with my magnet? Where did the jumbo magnet go? There we go. All right. Yeah, and I'm not a big baseball fan. My brother's huge. I mean, that's what my brother does. He's a radio announcer. Oops, sorry about that. So I never really got into baseball. But it's the same kind of thing, you know. It's like voracious fans, you know. All right, so let me clear this out. I'll put some blue in here. And I'll do a light blue. You know, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of getting the base color that I can start working from. Sorted now. Awesome. Very, very cool. Cowboys fans. And Lewis, my parents lived in Dallas just outside of Dallas for about 15 years. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's weird that these connections that we have. My parents were never Dallas fans, but, you know, they had the same thing going on when they were living there. The Rams are on point that last. There you go. See? I love the Rams because, again, Patriots, but Gary, you were asking about Three Amigos. If that's something that you are looking at, let me know before you make a decision on that, okay? All right, white. I need white and a little bit of blue. So that's opaque white in there, and that's 1:1, which is my kind of go-to for these two brushes. And then for the blue, I've got a bunch of blue on the palette, so I'm just going to use some of the blue here since I don't have to really color match anything. I've got, you guys are looking at it. Yeah, this over here is from the Packard painting. This is blue violet, and then this is phthalo blue. So the difference between the two, the phthalo blue has a lot more green in it, and the blue violet is just like a real cool blue. I think I'm going to use the phthalo blue because most of the other blue in this painting is the blue violet. So this will be a nice kind of offset. It'll still be blue, but it's not going to be the same blue. That's, you know, I want to try to avoid that as much as possible because having that limited of a palette will make it look cartoonish. Mr. Garcia. Go Hawks. uh, all right, so blue. There's white in there first. I know it because I didn't mix it up. Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to drop my finger on the side so I don't get any blue paint out on the garage here. Actually, and here's a little extra bonus thing that just kind of worked out, but it's really going to work out. So I doubt they had uniforms here at this gas station. However, let me switch out to this camera. So if you see Pete way over here, Pete's wearing a light blue shirt and then, you know, blue work pants. So Tony's going to be wearing an unbuttoned light blue shirt with jeans on. So he'll look like he kind of matches Pete, but like a kid would match an adult. You know, he's got the blue shirt on, but he's got it untucked, and I think it's going to work out really, really well. So, all right, good. Awesome, Chris. What else did I miss? What else did I miss? No, you guys are good. All right. Sorry, I was just catching up. All right, so I've got another copy. So what I'm going to do now is, you know what, you can, the copies are great, and I could cut out a bunch of templates to kind of get everything in there, or I could just paint it in, and that's what I'm going to do. I will use the airbrush to kind of blend the stuff I'm about to do right now, but for the most part, I'm just gonna paint them in. So I have the same blue that I used, obviously, on the palette. So I'm going to grab some of that. There's already some blue with the black in it, which is on there too. So just going to run around this thing and just start painting in the darkest, basically the darkest details. So the fold of his collar, where his shirt comes around. Oh, and today, you guys, today, right now, Gerald Mendez is teaching his class at the show in Salt Lake City. Oh, I wish I was there. I had the best time last year. Just an amazing, amazing group of people. Crazy cars. It was just, it was a really good time. Yeah, so I'm going to show you again. See that little errant hair sticking out the top of that brush? That's when things start to go sideways with these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to save this brush a little bit. This one I don't want to do that because there's paint on it. Hold on. I can't do that either. I got to do that off the side. So what I'm going to do is all I did was I just kind of like laid it down on the board and then held the knife blade on the hair and then picked the brush up, and that trims off that piece. Again, you get into doing that a lot, and the brush won't work right anyway. So it's a good it's a good thing to do if you need to like save. Like I don't have another one in the bank. I don't know why. Usually I have, you know, one new one all the time ready to go, but I think I missed an order somewhere and didn't put in the order or whatever. So I don't have an extra one. So I'm gonna have to make this work till I get some new ones in. It doesn't take long, but still. So in an instance like that, I can, you know, kind of do stuff like that, but I really try not to, because these brushes, it's the same thing for me as an X-Acto blade. You know, X-Acto blades are sharpened so well at the factory. I know people can sharpen them. I know people do all kinds of cool stuff with them, but for me, I just rely on that really end of the blade, that super pointed part of the blade that I don't really have the time or, you know, the skill to restore that point. So for me, it's much more time efficient and efficient overall to just put in a new blade, you know, and to recycle the old one. So I feel the same way about these brushes. For, you know, for about 20 bucks, they're not cheap. However, I get over a year out of them. So so when they start to go sideways, instead of messing with them and, you know, then dealing with them all messed up because I tried to fix them and didn't do a good job, I just get a new brush. What I haven't quite figured out what to do with is the old ones, because even the old ones, the ones that are kind of been used now, even those brushes are still useful in some way. You can always do other stuff with them. You just can't do super detail with them. So I keep them all. So I've got all these brushes, these used brushes that are the same size and the same condition. What I should end up doing is just giving them away, you know, just so people, I mean, as long as people know they're not, you know, they're not in pristine condition, you know. I'm not giving away new ones, because if you expect it to work like a new one, they will not. What else am I missing? When you said uniforms, I thought Back to the Future. Yeah, Astral, exactly like that. Yeah, I usually try to catch the beginning of Tim's. And if I'm lucky and don't pass out, then you know, I catch the whole thing. But last night, I don't even remember falling asleep. It was crazy. All right, this is good. This is real good. So this area right in here is all shadowed. So I'm just going to leave the outside line of it. I'm not going to paint the inside in here, because I'll do that with the airbrush. That's going to be easier to do that with the airbrush. But all these other little folds works out pretty well. Same thing with the, you know, the softer folds in the middle of his shirt here. You can just kind of see them. Actually, what I'll do is I'll cut this off so I can get this a little closer. There we go. So you see what I'm kind of picking off, you know, like these real dark areas in here. That's kind of what all I'm doing is outlining all those areas. But see these softer folds in the middle of his shirt? Those are going to be better to do with the airbrush. Where these sharp ones are difficult to do with the airbrush, where they kind of, you know, have those tighter edges. So again, I'm playing to the strengths of each of the tools. And you'll see that in a second when I go to kind of do that. And what I'm going to do real quick too, just for three-dimensional effect, I'm going to grab a little bit of white here, and I still got some blue in the brush, just a little bit. So that's going to give me a really, really super pale blue. And then what I can do with that is I can kind of preemptively hit some of the highlights in this shirt. So when I airbrush this thing will be done. If I wait and then put the highlights in at the end, sometimes they stand out too much. So this way I'm kind of covering that. And then if I do have to add a little bit more of the highlights, then that's easy. But I don't have to worry too much about it. Yeah, so anywhere where the light would be kind of like catching this shirt. I don't want to obviously do too much of this because it'll make the shirt look shiny, which I don't want, but just a little bit here and there. That's good. That's good. Just a double aught, Jim. So this is a Winsor Newton. Oop, where are we? There we go. Winsor Newton double aught. So honestly, I move. This is the brush I've been using almost all the time, probably for the last year. But I do bounce back and forth, or have bounced back and forth between that and the single aught. Of course, I don't have any here. Yeah, here it is. So that's the single aught. So these are the two that I use the most. And you can see, even though they're only one brush size off, they're almost like completely different brushes. The nice thing about the single lot is you can still get the same detail out of it. It's got the same kind of point to it. However, it just has more of a belly to it, so it can hold more paint. So that's really the big advantage of it. So yeah, I would say, whenever anyone asks what to buy, if they're looking to do what I do, I just tell them to buy both, because they're both really, really good, and you might find you like one more than the other. I mean, that being said, if you had a size 1, do I have my 1 here? I do. I mean, this is a size 1, and look at the point on that too. I mean, you could do the same detail with a 1 as well. And oh, here's the 00 compared to the 1. It's like twice or 3 times the size. So again, at 20 bucks a piece, yeah. It'd be nice to buy the whole set of small ones. Don't buy the miniature ones though. If you're doing acrylic, they dry out too fast, because what happens is with the miniature brushes, the length of the bristles is about half the size. They're really short bristled brushes. And what I find with the acrylic paints is the acrylic paints dry in there really, really fast. Where in the longer bristled brushes, the wet paint can kind of stay in there wet for longer, and they work out better. So I haven't had very much luck with the miniature ones. And they say right on them, it says miniature. All right. That's good. Am my airbrush ready? Am I airbrush ready? I think I am. Okay. Let's do that. What do I got in here? I got light blue in here. Can I? No, I'm not going to do that. I was going to see if I could use this light blue, but it's not worth it. The white in it will slow it down. So I'm going to clean this out, and I'm just going to put in the... you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use the blue violet. So I've got the base and the darker details with the phthalo blue. So now I'm going to do the shading with the blue violet, and that will give me a little bit of a different cast throughout this shirt. Again, for me, the more complex the color is, the more reality it has to it, it seems. The less out of the tube it seems, which is good. All right. Now for this, I need like a tint. I don't want this to be really overly opaque. Plus I want this to spray really fine because I'm dealing with a really super small area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a base of 40-50, which is 1 part, and then 10 parts of 40-11 reducer. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that in the bottom of the airbrush, down in there. There it is down there. And then with the paintbrush, I'm just going to grab some of this blue violet. Just enough to tint that mixture that I have in there. Yeah, I'm okay. I love it. I want to speak Welsh as a second language. That's what I really want. My ex-wife, she's 100% Scottish. Her aunts came from Scotland. So it was fun when I first started dating her. I was in high school, and we would go over there, and I had no idea what they were saying at all. It was great. I'm happy to say by the time we got married, though, by the time I was done with college and I got married, I could totally understand what they were saying. All right. So there's that blue. So this blue here is the same thing as this blue on the building. See how blue violety that is? It's the same color that's on the Packard painting. All right, let's see what we got. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the darkest area first, which is the inside of his shirt right here. And that's where I'm going to start messing around with this to see how it sprays. That way, if it screws up, it's not going to be a problem. I should just put 2 of these gloves on instead of having 1 and switch it back and forth. But let's do this. No. There we go. So I guess that's better. All right, so I'm going to start in the darkest area just to see how this works. And that is working okay. But I think it needs to be, yeah, see it's starting to spit a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit more reducer to it. The reducer mix. Well, actually, I shouldn't say a little. I just doubled it. So I just doubled the volume of material that was in the cup with reducer and that 40-50 mix. Because this is, I want this really, really thin. I want this to be like imperceptibly thin. You had to mess with them, use a Boston accent. Chris, I did. But they had been living in, it's fun. They moved over from Scotland a while ago. And so they were used to it, I think. But it's funny, they never lost their deep Scottish brogue. They were sweethearts. And oh, boy, could they cook. Their family owned a bakery in Scotland. And they brought that with them, the skill. And yeah, I'm amazed I don't weigh 1,000,000 pounds. Yes, much better. Okay. So what can you guys see? All right, so on this side, I'll paint it on this side of Tony. So what I've got now is this really reduced blue that if I just like lean on this trigger, just like think paint, then it comes out like this. But if I go over this a few times, I can get it to be a nice deep blue, right? But if I want to fade that and like add the soft folds of his shirt, I have that ability too. So again, I'm dealing with a really, really super small area. I'm not trying to cover anything, so I can afford to have it gigantically reduced, like crazy reduced. All right, now that it's working, I can just get to it. Although I do have to fix that little blowout before I get too far. I'll show you that in a second. That may be eraserable, I think. An eraserable offense. Let's give the eraser a try and see what happens. No, but what my ex-wife would do is there were certain words that they had a difficult time saying. Like one of them was beige. They couldn't say beige like we say beige. So my ex-wife would make them say beige all the time. So now later on, I thought that was a universal thing, but it wasn't. It was just a regional Scotland dialect thing that they had a hard time with, because I met other Scottish people later on that had no problem saying it that way. So anyway, there's another great YouTuber. I can't remember his name right now, but he's a linguist from the UK, and his whole channel is all about the different accents around the UK, and it's fantastic. You know, for such a relatively small geographical area to have such different dialects based around the same core language is amazing. And I'm sorry. The UK has the best insults too. They are hilarious. Because some of them don't even sound like insults, but they're horrible. Like what they mean is just terrible, but they don't sound terrible. They sound just kind of cute or funny, and I can't even repeat them. That's how sometimes bad they are. So this is a balance now. Occasionally I'll get those little, I don't even know if you can see that, at the top of his shoulder there. I had that blow out a little bit. So it's a balance now from me getting this done and then, or, you know, getting the paint on there, but then sometimes having to stop and or do a little bit of erasing or scratching or something. It's just kind of the nature of the beast when you're dealing like freehand this small. Things are going to go wrong. It is where the what's could go wrong comes from. So it's a matter of just being able to bounce back and forth and be okay with it. You know, like I never expect these things to go flawlessly without a hitch. They never do, and that's totally okay. I say this all the time, man. It's almost like a relief, because if you know something's going to go sideways and you can fix it, you never worry about it. If you're absolutely paralyzed that this has to come out right, or else I don't know what I'm going to do. It's a whole different dynamic when you're working with that kind of pressure. So I enjoy screwing up and then trying to figure out how to fix it. And I feel like that's a superpower, meaning screwing up. All right, so you can see the difference between this side and this side now. It just adds this whole different, it just kind of pulls it all together. And hopefully you can also, the camera's picking up the difference between this cooler blue and the greenish blue of the darker details. It just makes me happy. Excrement, as my good friend Dom says. All right. All right, switch over to the other side now. So I don't know that we'll get to the jeans today, but it's exactly the same thing. Except what I'll probably end up doing is using maybe the green, the phthalo blue on his jeans for the airbrushing. That will just make a slight variation between his shirt and his pants. It won't look like, he is wearing a uniform. So you have to be extra vigilant with any tip dry too. Even if you don't think there's tip dry on there, I'll still go after it because you don't want that building up, and then it blasts out way too easy when you have it this thin. So I definitely try to stay ahead of that when I'm working like this. Running it off the side too and just kind of blasting the paint out of it helps out a lot too. I am going to have to add a little bit of black, just to kind of darken, like in the part I'm working on right now next to his arm. That's really dark in there. So I'm going to have to pop that out a little bit with some black, but that'll come at the end. Oh, I have a good one, Brad. Excellent. Example, can I say that, Astro? Is that going to get me demonetized for saying what you just typed? That's awesome. Just want to call someone stupid with the insult so much cruder now. Yes. Yeah, it's usually attached with certain body parts and things like that. It's so good, Astro. And the best part for me is, unless you're watching, all these UK content creators like I do, I can use all those insults here and people don't know what I'm saying. Like, they don't know. I mean, they know it's derogatory because of the context that it's being used in, but you don't actually know what it is until you look it up, and then it's extra offensive. So, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to get over to the UK. Marge and I talk about it all the time about, getting over to Ireland and in Scotland too, and seeing England and that whole thing. So, you know, I can't wait to end up there and hopefully have a beer with Del from Flake King and Visionaire, and go get a tattoo from Svi. Be a lot of fun. What would be ideal would be to get over there if they get the custom culture, the blast off back up and running. That would be the most amazing thing to go over during that. Then I get to meet everyone, you know, Roger Hassler and everyone from that side of the pond. That would be a blast. All right, so the top of his shoulder is pretty dark, and I'm going to go with that too because he's kind of standing in this doorway. And then it's built up in, you know, it's built up in slow layers because it's always easier to add paint than it is to take away. So what I'm always doing is just kind of leaning back. And when you're working real small, it's nice. You lean back a foot and you're really like back 6 feet. You know what I mean? So just kind of lean back and look at the whole thing and see how it's blending in with everything. Making sure it's not, you know, too light or too dark or whatever. It's always easier to fix it now than later. But I think that's looking pretty good from there. I think I'm going to leave it at that. What did I say I was going to do? I was going to do the jeans in phthalo blue. But do I want to base them in? I could base them with blue violet and then shade them. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to do, like, I was going to pull this paint out, put in phthalo blue with a little bit of white, and then base in his legs, basically. The problem there is if it's too different, it'll be obvious. So what I think I'm going to do to narrow the gap there, where I just did all this shading with the blue violet, I'm going to do blue violet, a light blue violet for the base of his pants, and then I'll shade them with the phthalo blue. That'll give me just enough of a variation while still tying it together with the top and not being out of control. So what makes that really easy is I could just take the blue that I have in here and add a little bit of white to it. And because this is so transparent, just a couple drops of white will give me that, you know, super pale blue again. So it's nice. I don't have to keep cleaning out the brush. All right. That is good. That's good. That's good. That's good. What else did I miss? Went to the KK Blast Off. Now it's blended in. It's ink and iron, but this year no airbrush, just tattoos. Won't go again. Yeah, that sucks, Adrian. I hope someone... Yeah, Buford T. Justice, yeah. I got to meet Simon Murray last year, which was amazing. I was heading back to New England, and it timed out really well that he was teaching at Createch, so I stopped in and hung out, and that was great. It's the first time I had a chance to meet him. He is exactly what you see in all the videos. He is the same guy. He's amazing. But yeah, I was kind of hoping that someone was going to pull that back together, but yeah, it doesn't sound like it's... Well, it doesn't sound like it's going to happen that way. It doesn't mean, you know, it's not going to happen. These things tend to cycle out quite a bit. You know, someone else will pick something up, I hope. All right, let's get it. I am going to do his pants with you guys because I want to. Because after this, I'm going to start 543s. So I have a little bit of time before I have to deliver this. All right, so same exact deal. These jeans are a little bit like kind of bleachy faded. I'm not going to do the same thing that's going on here because this wasn't a thing back in the 70s. So, or whenever it was that Tony was working there. I want to say, early 70s, that kind of thing, maybe late 60s. But in any event, they didn't have this, how they have the front of the jeans are kind of bleached now. So I'm just going to kind of use the shape and the folds of the jeans, but not the design, essentially. Notice I also didn't add the black to his shirt yet. I'm going to do all that stuff together so that I can kind of push everything at the same time, all those darkest darks. And that way everything stays kind of continuous and not, piecey. Here we go. Ta-da! There's his legs. Okay. Does it add to the story? Is something I've been asking myself while painting details lately. Thanks, that's Steve. Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's the whole thing, man. It's the whole thing. The way I look at it is, I'm a storyteller, and then, it's my job to make sure that story gets told as best as I can. And for everyone, that's different. Everyone tells a story differently. So, and, I'm okay with that, obviously. And I think that's great. But for me, it's like all those things have to be right there. There it is. I found it. Jumbo magnet. Yeah, that's the next thing I got to do is I have to figure out a way to get the magnets to work on these ampersand boards better. I have an idea, which I won't share yet because it could be a dumb idea. So we're going to test it first. But I do have an idea. And if it works, then it'll be amazing. If it doesn't work, then I will not look stupid. So, well, I shouldn't say that. I won't look stupider. I'm going to move the camera in a second so you can see where I'm at. Because we're working on his shirt, now working on his pants. Slide this down a bit like that. I love the way the handle came out on this. It's super, like if you look at it really close up, where you guys are really close, it's really not much to it, but from far away it looks like it should, which I was very happy with, again, because you end up making all that stuff up too. All right, blue. So start up on the top side of him. Oh, I flooded that out. Damn it. May have to clean that out. I couldn't see what I was doing. So what I did down on this leg here is I pulled the trigger back too far. So, let's see how bad it is now. It might not be bad at all. So it's always the fun part of this, see how bad you screwed up, or sometimes not at all. Ah, yeah, that's kind of crappy. Oh well. Now, the good news is there's clear on this painting. There's UVLS on this painting when I finished it. So if I'm lucky, oops, piece of paint, I should be able to erase that blowout and go down to the clear. Yes, another, that's two wins for today. Good. So you can't see it because you're too close, but you can see the difference between the two now, hopefully. So that's got a much cooler blue to it than what's going on up here in the shadow. So that'll be good. Astral, yes, I excel at making mistakes. It's like I said, it's how I know I'm doing it right. If I screw things up enough. Now, sorry about that. There is a little bit of overspray on the doorway in the dark, and there's a little bit of overspray here on the building too. It's something I'll show you how I'm going to fix it, but that's something that I'd kind of address at the very end of the whole thing. Because there's no use really fixing it now if it's just going to happen again. So for this side of the building, this is the finished part of the painting, and that has clear on it as well. So if I just really lightly go over this edge with the eraser, I can just erase that overspray. It comes right off. Now the other side of it is a little bit different story. So I had to take Tony out of this doorway. Yeah, I'll back up a little bit. Sorry about that. Every time I move the camera, I bump the cable. The HDMI cable for it. There we go. Okay. So this side, he was standing here before as well, and I had to take him out. So what I ended up doing was I ended up repainting this doorway. So this doorway doesn't have UVLS on it. So if I start erasing here, I'm going to dig right down through this brown paint and end up, making it worse. So the way I'm going to deal with this side of him is I'll just cut out, I probably have one somewhere. I'll just cut Tony out, hold him in place, and then just hit the doorway a couple extra times with black or like a brown. And that'll take care of all the overspray that might have got on that. All right, so what we'll do now is I'll just do the details on his legs, and then I'll probably let you guys go so it isn't too crazy long of a feed. So again, remember I did the blue violet for his legs, for the base coat, so I'm going to use phthalo blue for the darker details. Yeah, 100% astral. If things go right the first time, something else is wrong, for sure. All right, so I've got blue violet here. Is that still up on the thing? Nope. There we go. So blue violet's here. Blue violet's here. Phthalo blue is here. So now, it's pretty common for me to add either white or black to any color, really. So when I have it on the palette, it'll often be attached to, like in this case I used black, but in this case I used a white. But it's really common to have these pull-offs out of these colors that will have white or black. I mean, like sometimes it's a different color and I'll make up a specific color like the skin tone over here. But for the most part, it's always just, kind of adjusting it with white and black. Let's see what we got here. This may be too blue. Maybe you need a little bit more black. Wait a minute. No, that was right. I was going to do the opposite. See? Wasn't paying attention. All right. What I'm going to use is actually the other blue, the blue violet for the details. That's what I wanted to do. So that way, when I shade it, I can use the phthalo blue. So I'm going to do the opposite of what I did on on his shirt. So this is going to be much cooler blue, which will be nice to kind of get in, especially in the darker areas too. This is just a much darker blue overall. Yeah, that's going to work out much better. So that gives his jeans a much cooler blue color than his shirt, which is perfect. And that actually does that match. I was just looking over at Pete over there in the other doorway, and I did the same thing with him. His shirt is, I can tell it's phthalo blue because it's got a green kind of cast to it, whereas pants are a little bit cooler. So this is going to be exactly the same. Not exactly the same, but it'll be reasonably the same. Yep. Just gotta make sure I keep grabbing the right color though. Ah, excellent. There's lawn shaming going on outside. So this morning I ended up mowing the lawn. I needed to. I should have done it over the weekend, but didn't have a chance. So I did it today, and it was overdue. But I can hear the neighbor now mowing his lawn. So that's proper lawn shaming right there. So they can't let me mow my lawn without feeling that they need to mow their lawn too. So I win. All right, so this, I was a little bit too low with this. I can tell that right now. Um, Down the bottom, see, well, actually you can't because I didn't realize the copy was kind of in the way. There we go. So see how the pants look like they're down over his shoes? And I also noticed there's a weird gap up here. So when I blocked this part of his pants in, I was too low with the copy, but that's okay. As long as I catch it now, it'll be fine because I'll be able to adjust it. He's wearing white sneakers. So I'll just be able to paint over the blue that went too low, and I'll be able to fill in the gaps up above. For instance, his shirt is, his shirt's hanging down too low now because the pants are too low. So I'll just make those adjustments. And there's a gap there too where the shirt is, so I kind of blew that one too, but that's okay. We'll make it work. We will make it work. So that Corvette I just finished, the 78, that belongs to a friend of mine. Actually, he's a friend of Tony's too, this guy right here. He's one of the guys who kind of hangs out at Keith Hansen's and everyone's become friends and that kind of thing. So Mark's Corvette is yellow. If you've watched that feed, you've seen the original photo of his car. So Tony has an old, I think Tony's Corvette's a 63. So it's fun when they're both there together and they kind of have like these little photo shoots with all the Corvettes. It's pretty fun. I got to be sad and sit in Tony's Corvette. And by sad, I mean, I'm 6'3", and they didn't build Corvettes for big people. So I sit in his car and my knees are in my chest. And, you guys know a Corvette, it's just two seats and then the rear deck, and there's nowhere to go. It's not like you can push the seat back any farther. So I think I've sat in a C3, Mark's era Corvette, and I don't think I fit in that either. So I don't think I fit in 70s Corvettes. I haven't, Brad Mummery has a 2000s Corvette, I think, or late 90s maybe. I've never sat in one of those, so I don't know if I fit in that era. And I'm guessing I probably fit in a new one, just because of the way that they do things now. However, yeah. And I made a promise to when I was a teenager, but even younger than that. So me and my best friend in elementary school, we always said we would get Corvettes, like matching Corvettes, like because we were best friends and best friends do best friend things. And I always said to him, I'm never going to drive one until mine. Like I'm not going to, test drive one and I have actually kept to that promise, not really by default, but sort of by default. So I've never driven a Corvette ever. So the first one I drive will be mine. And the way it's going with not being able to fit in any of them, I'll never drive a Corvette. So there you go. Nice. Nice. All right. Same thing here. I'm going to put a little bit of, it's the same thing with the white. I'm going to put the highlights in his jeans again. I don't want to go nuts with this because we don't want him to look like he has shiny jeans on. So we're just going to pick like some of the brightest highlights here. Where the sun would kind of catch the folds in his pants, and that's it. Like that. It is. It's Lawn Wars. And you know what? We live in this little cul-de-sac, and And people take their lawns seriously around here. So, yeah, I got to do a good job. All right, let's do this. So I'm going to put, let's clean this out. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with that really super thin mix, but this time I'm going to use phthalo blue, which is that greenish blue. Actually, do I want to do this? I mean, maybe I don't want to do this. Hold on. I don't think I do. Here's what I'm thinking. If I do a real thin phthalo blue for the shadows of this, in the areas where that phthalo blue kind of trails off to nothing, it's going to look really green, like teal. And I don't want that. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the black. If that doesn't quite look right, then I'll add a touch of the blue and we'll be in good shape. If I try to develop all that value with just the greenish blue, he's gonna end up with green pants on, and I definitely don't want that. So I'm just gonna take black. This is super reduced black. It's 1 part paint to 10 parts reducer. Again, you know, don't try this at home sort of thing. You can, but over reducing the paint like this has its own challenges, which we've gone over a bunch of times. All right, so I've got just straight up black in here, so we're just going to start messing with this. I'm not worried about his feet at all. I'll fix his feet later. You know, the blue on his feet. I don't want that either. Stop that. Again, same thing with the black. I try it out in a spot that, you know, isn't going to make a difference if it doesn't come out quite right. You know, if the paint's not flowing or whatever. So if I do it in a, you know, area that's really dark, then and it doesn't work, then I'm not really that far off. So it seems to be working out pretty well. So my first impression of this black is it's too brown, which is common. I mean, that's the opaque black has a lot of, you know, it's a lot of warmth to it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just go over to the palette and take just kind of touch the brush into the blue, kind of get kind of the blue on the, just on the brush a little bit, and that'll give me just a touch of blue in this. See how that looks. Again, you know, could I do that with the airbrush after? Add a little bit of blue? Yeah, but then I'd have to go over the whole thing. If I get it all in the brush right now, then I only have to do this once. See how that looks. It's still a little bit brown, so I'm going to add a little bit more blue. Again, just all I'm doing is just kind of like touching the little droplet of paint on there and just getting it to coat the bristles of the brush. There's not, you know, it's very little paint. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of reducer to this too. Yeah, I can see that. That's good now. Okay. Okay. Looking awful black. It's awful dark. All right, keep adding blue. Keep adding blue till it works. And a little bit more reducer. Again, I'm feeling that this is pretty strong right now. And again, this is just like, I want to breathe paint on here. I just want to just kind of get that. Yeah, that's got to be good now. Now we're more like a slate blue. We've really pushed this black over into the blue category, which is good. Yeah, Astral, especially this opaque black, this Createx opaque black is just a fantastic color. Super strong, really pigmented. Just it's all good. It's just like you're seeing. It can be a fight to get it to do something else. But said if you keep punching in the face, man, sooner or later, and we look good now. Good, that's good. Just the right cast of blue to it. I got enough black in it too as well. So it's really like a dark, dark, dark blue. So if I just run this a little bit heavier onto the doorway, it basically gets rid of all the overspray from the blue from the pants. So that's a bonus too. Like you can see a little bit more, like see the right between his legs on the wall. It's really kind of bright there. That's because of the blue from the pants. If I use this blue here, I can really kind of just, because it's got enough black in it, I can just kind of make that all go away. So. Nice. I'm happy. I'm happy. Okay. So if you've been following the Model Monday thing too, I don't have a video lined up for Monday. I hope over the weekend that I'll get a chance to mess with it. I'm starting the diorama for the base for all that now, which is really a lot of fun because I've never scratch built anything before for models, scale models, but I'm really having a good time doing this. So I'll share that with you as I kind of pull in the next couple episodes. Yeah, this all makes me very happy. I think you can pick it up. It's totally a different feel, like a different blue feel than his shirt, but it really starts to feel like denim too. It's got that cooler, kind of worn, denim feel to it, which is just what we're looking for. Again, I didn't want him to feel like he had a uniform on. Yeah, I'm happy. What I am going to do though, like remember how I said I was going to pull some black into the shirt up here? I'll move this down instead of moving the camera, it'd be easier. I'm going to use this blue for the darkest areas. I want to be really, really, really careful though not to use this everywhere. Because if I put this color everywhere in his shirt, it's going to make his shirt look like his pants. And that's not what I want. But tying his shirt to his pants by kind of introducing the same color in a couple little spots is a great idea. Especially like in this darker area, right in his, like, his elbow here. Inner arm, like his forearm. Just kind of tucking in that color there, and maybe even a little bit like where it's super dark inside his shirt here. I'll use that same color in here as well. Now, really quick, It'd be super easy to take this really nice light blue and do the folds, like the creases in his shirt and everything with this color, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to switch to when I get there, I'm going to switch to just the straight up black, which has more of that brownish feel, and that's what I'll use to put the shadow in his shirt. Again, because if I kind of use the same color everywhere, it's going to make him feel like he's cut out and just paste it in there. If I have a lot of complex shading and shadowing in there, by using different colors, it's gonna just make the painting look more realistic. So, and it's hard to resist because I'm like, oh, I could just drop the shadows in his shirt and then he's pretty much done. But I'm not going to do that. But as soon as I'm done with this part, I'll back you guys out so you can kind of see the whole thing from the right angle, because you guys are at kind of a 45-degree angle right now. All right, that's good. I'm going to leave it there because here it is. You know, if you start screwing around with it nonstop, you know, sooner or later something bad's going to happen. And so I'll back you guys up as far as I can go with this camera, which will be right about there. We will remove the copy of Tony as soon as I get you guys focused. Yeah, I'm happy. Move the copy of Tony here, and that's what we got. So what's left to do is kind of do the shading on his t-shirt. I still got to do the shading on his arms as well, and then I got to paint his feet in, which are white sneakers, so they're easy. I'll do his feet and his shirt at the same time. That'll be nice because it'll tie the whites together, which is, again, it's nice. It pulls it all together, makes it feel more real. And then of course I got to put some kind of, you know, shadow underneath him a little bit to kind of get him in the right spot. But I'm super happy. Let me give you this other view, the farther away view. This is like the whole painting. Oh, without the lights in the way. There we go. So that's kind of the whole image. But it's funny that all that stuff we were just doing in that area that's, you know, smaller than the first two, you know, up to my second knuckle on my index finger. It's tiny, but it's Tony. It's the point of the painting, really. So, you know, it's got to be right. There you go. So there you go. That's what we got. I'm going to move that. Do I have to move that? No. Oh, that's the palette. I don't want that. I want this one. There we go. That one. Excellent. All right. So to my new members, welcome to the What Could Go Wrong Club. Thank you so much for membership. That's awesome. And thank you all for being here too. I'm going to post that poll to see if this is a good time or if we want to slide this around. It's okay with me no matter what. So that's good. And yeah, that's what we got. So thank you all. Thank you all for hanging out with me on this Thursday. I hope you enjoyed it. Painting little Tony. I will post this when it's all done. This is pretty much done. I mean, I got a few more things to do on it, but I'll repost this and then you guys will get to see it. We did have prints made of this originally with the other Tony. I think he's going to have prints made of this again with the new Tony. So it's a real specific painting, but if you like it and, you know, would like a copy of the print, you can let me know. It's not going to go up on my site or anything, but we made a few extra prints last time. So if it's something that you might like, just shoot me a message and I will I'll make sure we get you one. So that's what I got. All right, guys, you're the best. I love you. Welcome new members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will, I'll catch you guys all next time. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon.